Hey there, I'm gonna show you how I make my signature Pavé arrangement today. And we're gonna get started with a 9-inch wide by 19-inch long piece of galvanized chicken wire. It's important to use galvanized, otherwise it'll rust and create a big stinky mess inside of your vase, so don't do that. And then I'm gonna bend it in half, leaving the upper kind of maybe about 4 or so inches height at the top to create a dome shape. And I'm just gently molding that together. And then where the parts it hinges together at like the seam, I'm just opening that out to make sure that there are still some open holes there. Otherwise it gets bunched up and it gets difficult to put flowers in those spaces. So now we're going in with 1/4 inch waterproof Oasis floral tape and making a crisscross over top the wire. And then, so I'm just only keeping that right on the uppermost part of the brim, and then reinforcing that again only on the uppermost part of the brim, going along with my fingers and reinforcing it as I go. The reason I do this essentially is because it hides the mechanics. Otherwise, if you do it on the face or outermost part of the vase, on the outer lip, you'll see it, especially if you're not using greeneries in your arrangement, which we're not in this one. So yes, it is more time consuming, but if you've been here for a minute, you might know that I don't tend to do things the easy way. Here we have it. We got our vase, got the floral food inside, and I'm gonna start with my largest flower first, which is Hydrangea. And I start by making a kind of triangle shape here. So I start with 3 out at an angle, and then I fill in with the other 2. I only got 1 bunch of the hydrangea. So I started with all of the largest hydrangea first, and then I'm taking the smaller pieces and filling in where it feels like there is the largest hole. And while I'm doing this, I'm essentially envisioning a dome shape, like a mushroom dome-like shape. I get a good feeling for the shape that I have, and then if I need to, I go back in and kind of move around pieces to get the exact shape that I want. So you can kind of see the bone structure here of the overall mushroom cap shape. Now I'm trimming off all of these little sepals, but I'm trimming those off if they're visible on the outside of the bloom so that they don't show in the arrangement. And of course, stripping off any damaged petals as I go. And also cleaning the rose stem as I go if there's any nodes that might get caught in the wire. And so I'm just taking these. This is my next largest flower, and I'm filling in the biggest holes here, kind of following that triangle format shape again, and concentrating the blooms in the areas where there's the most holes. So in my mind, it's kind of like a tapestry, but also like a puzzle. And I tend to think of working in 3s and clusters. So I'll create a little cluster of 2 or 3 at a time. And then because of the amount and range of flowers that I'm working with, I know how many flowers I'm working with, and that's what's going to create the range and texture in this arrangement. So I lay it out first on all sides, kind of following that triangle format, and then I go back in and start filling in where it feels like it needs it. And I've also left them to the side. And now we're moving in with spray roses. I look at the shape of the spray rose, I clean off any greenery or any nubs on the stem, again, so that there's a clean insertion. Focusing in on that clustered-like shape here. And stripping off any damaged petals as you would. And as you can see, the shape is starting to fill out a little bit more. Now I'm going in with my staked Cymbidiums here. I staked them on green hyacinth sticks, which is okay because this is a ceramic vase, so you won't see the water, and it won't dye any of the flowers that green color either, so that's perfectly fine. It's also a nice skinny stake to use, so if you'd like to see how to tube and stake Cymbidium orchids, let me know in the comments and I'll make that video for you. Now we're going in with another spray rose. This is a beautiful garden spray rose variety, and I am leaving on some of the buds with the green calyx texture so that it adds a little bit more interest to the arrangement, and then some of them I'll clean off completely so that you just get the clean peach colored bloom in there, or blush, I should say. Yeah, again, cleaning off that stem, kind of whittling it down, and now kind of rounding out that shape, bringing some of these pieces a little bit lower so that you can start to close out on those mechanics. And because this particular bunch had very long laterals, I broke off a bunch of the pieces and I can use those down low, which was great. I set those aside. I go in with the large stem first and then fill in with the smaller lateral blooms. Oh my God, I love this color palette so much. I was really, really, really excited to make this. Shout out to my friend Sarah Carter for ordering flowers. This is an arrangement done for her for one of her friends. And so the way I tend to think about my Pavé designs is not everything is on the same exact plane or surface, though it kind of appears to be. There is a little bit of back and forth kind of pushing in and out of blooms to create dimension and depth. If it were all on one surface level, it would look like a completely different arrangement. Now I'm going in with the carnations, got this gorgeous antique look. And I'm starting to fill in more holes and creating those textural kind of applique. I like to think of it like an applique, how it's highly detailed little piece of design. So yeah, again, creating clusters as we go. I'll usually do like 2 together, to one slightly lower than the other, again, to give it dimension and depth. And you're gonna wanna move a lot as you're creating your arrangement. Look under, look over, step back from your arrangement. Make sure that the shape you're envisioning your arrangement to be is the way you want it. And you do that by stepping back, looking at it from a bunch of different angles. It gives you the best perspective. Just keep that end shape in mind. Again, I'm creating this kind of mushroom-shaped dome. This is a greenery-less arrangement. It's all flowers, no greens, and I just prefer it that way. All of the variety names of every flower in this arrangement will be linked below if you would like to recreate this arrangement. Just refer back to this video. Hopefully it will help you. The people that this arrangement was for was a wine connoisseur and a, oh gosh, what was she? I think kind of like a National Geographic style photographer, documentarian. So I thought this was a really cool color combo for that couple. Got the Merlot, and a Cabernet. We got the wine tones in there, as well as some earthy greens and rust tones. I'm looking, again, spacing this out properly so that they're not all clustered in the same spot. And I'm also looking at, because not every flower in each bunch is the same exact color, they're all nuanced. And then the way that they sit next to other blooms in relation to one another, the color can appear different. So I'm turning my arrangement a lot as I go as well to see how each individual bloom color sits next to the other one that I might potentially place it at. So I hold the bloom up. Does it look good here? No, I just turn the arrangement and put it in the spot that looks best. Just be careful as you're going to make sure that no stems are sticking outside of the vase. That happens a lot. And as you're arranging, it gets a little bit more difficult to put stems in there, which is totally fine. But that's also why I set the wire up the way that I do in the beginning, because it creates the absolute most space possible inside the vase. Whereas traditional florists, if they're creating a looser arrangement, might bunch up the galvanized chicken wire inside the vase because that will hold all of their stems. But again, because this is such a petal heavy and stem count heavy arrangement, we need it as open as possible in the arrangement to get as many stems possible comfortably in the arrangement. This is something that took me many trial and error experiences over and over again to figure out. And yeah, not a lot of florists in LA design in this way. A, because it's extremely time consuming, and B, because the product itself is actually quite costly. I will let you know, I gotta look at the receipts, but I'm pretty sure this arrangement cost me about $150 to make. That includes the vase. I'll double check that and put it in the description below, again with all the variety names. And now I'm going back in with the that original Dory rose that I started with and filling in little areas where it seems like it needs that particular pop of color and shape. Now it's really starting to finish off this arrangement. I love it so much. You can tell the stems are not as much space, a little bit harder to get in there, but that's okay. We love it. I just love this rose so much. It's such a strange, such a strange color. It's got this weird kind of whitish gray back to the petals. And then, yeah, I think she's done. Is she done? Now we spray it with finishing touch. And voila! Hope you enjoyed. All of the tools used in this video, except for the vase, can be found at my Amazon store linked in the description box below, so you can get started on creating beautiful arrangements today.